School teacher Sharon Witt has turned her love of helping teenagers navigate those formative years, into a burgeoning little business. She's the author of 12 books, a regular media commentator, an in-demand public speaker, and a mum of 2 teenagers herself. If you're keen to become an opinion leader in your industry, then this is the episode for you. Before we get stuck into episode 406 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, the Marketing Gold is made possible, and exclusively possible actually, thanks to American Express. I say exclusively because Amex has kindly taken all available advertising spots in this episode. So do me and yourself a favour by checking out their suite of business cards designed to meet the financial needs of small business owners just like you and me. Simply Google Amex Business to find out more.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. It's pretty much why this show exists. So if that's you, then you are in the right place. Big show today. School teacher turned self-publishing superstar and media darling, Sharon Witt, joins us to explain how she's done it and how you can too. Melbourne SEO Services Dave Jennings will reveal the truth, the dark truth about backlinks and how they can assist your marketing. I make a couple of listeners very happy by giving them some prizes. So really, as per usual, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Quick update on the Deep Dive Mastermind. If you want to get together with me and 9 other motivated business owners just like you once every 2 months to find out new marketing things that are going to drive your business forward, to break through any blockages you have around your marketing that are stopping you from driving your business forward. And if you just want to kind of get out of your own headspace, find some people who will keep you accountable to creating great marketing, to getting more customers, then the Deep Dive Mastermind is for you. It starts later in March and all the details can be found over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/mastermind. Check it out. I'd love to see you there. I'd love to help you with your marketing. That's my thing. smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/mastermind. Check it out. You and I will be meeting some amazing business owners and marketers over the coming weeks. We're going to be catching up with one of Australia's leading racing car drivers, Steve Richards. Like, he is A-list celebrity in that industry. He was also seconds away from signing a contract to become a KFC franchisee, but instead decided to start his own business with his wife, and he has never looked back. He's going to share that story. And next week, you and I are going to meet a fellow who's managed to fight off cancer not once but twice and is now on a mission to create, wait for it, the world's healthiest and tastiest instant noodle brand. And he has good reason for doing that, which he'll share next week in our chat. But right now, let's meet school teacher turned award-winning author and media personality and keynote speaker, Sharon Witt. Now, I first met Sharon a few weeks ago when we were both guests on one of those panel discussions you hear on Talkback Radio. You know, those ones where you talk crap for an hour, basically. You know, are you a dog or a cat person? Would you do online dating? You know, where was your favourite holiday destination? All that kind of thing. You get the gist. Anyway, we quickly hit it off, and the more Sharon told me her story, the more interested I became. She's the mother of 2 teenagers, and Sharon's been a school teacher for the past 20 plus years. and has a particular bent for helping teenagers and their parents navigate those murky waters, of which I have navigated 3 times. And they can be murky. Now, Sharon's written 12 books on the subject, with her best-selling Teen Talk series selling over 100,000 copies. Her prolific writing and blogging has led to a public speaking career. That sounds familiar. And Sharon is also the go-to person when the media need an opinion on a teenage topic. We cover plenty of ground in this little chat team, including personal branding, self-publishing, the importance of a mentor, effective content creation, how to get media coverage, how a breakdown nearly stopped Sharon in her tracks from doing any of this wonderful work that she's doing, plus plenty more. I started off by asking Sharon, why does she do what she does?
Wow, that's a big question. I have been an educator for the last 25 years, and I'm very passionate about especially equipping young people for the journey of life. I guess that would probably be the best way to sum it up. Just really passionate at helping equip them.
Where does that come
inspire them. Well, if you want a particular moment in time that kind of changed the course of my life, it would have to be when I was 20. I lost my best friend, who was 19 at the time, to suicide. So he was a teenager, obviously. Lost him, and I think something within me at that point. I was already studying teaching, but something in me went, that's not okay. And I think in the back of my mind for the last 25 years, I have had just this deep desire to make a difference. I think that's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Making a difference to the young people in our the young people in our lives, but also to help equip parents in helping raise their young children to be resilient.
So for the majority of your growing life, you've done that via teaching.
Yeah.
Then 10 years ago, you go and write a book. Why did you write a book? And how, in your own words, it changed everything?
Wow. Yeah, it's a loaded question. I always felt for a number of years in my early years of teaching that it became apparent to me very early on that our young people were struggling with lots of issues, from bullying to their self-esteem to getting organised. And these are things that started to become apparent in probably about my 5th or 6th year of teaching. And I had this idea in my mind that one day I'd probably write a resource and maybe write a book. And I sat on it for about 10 years because in the back of my mind I thought, well, I don't know how to write a book. I wouldn't know how to get a publisher, all those sorts of things. But apparently I did say to my students at different times I'd like to write a book one day. So I sat on that idea for 10 years, and it wasn't until 10 years ago now that I just wanted to write a resource originally for my class, for my group of teenagers that I was working with. I thought I'm going to write a guidebook to helping them, I guess, navigate many of the issues that were coming up for them: self-esteem, bullying, dealing with parents, stress, anxiety, getting organised, setting goals, being motivated. And I just, I launched into that not knowing a single thing about book publishing at all.
Beautiful. And you're going to tell you right now, there are a bucket load of small business owners listening who are pretty much nodding their head going, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I've got a book in me. I'm a specialist in what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just not going to take action. So what triggered you to take action?
What did I do?
Or
well,
who?
Yes. Am I allowed to mention names?
You can mention anyone you want.
So it's a funny story. I'll try and make it very, very quick. But
that's impossible for you, Shaz.
I know it's impossible for me. But in a nutshell, I decided in about the October of, I think it was 2016, it finally hit me and I went, it's now or never. This is it. I'm doing it. And the funny thing was, I watched this program and someone had given me this DVD, and it was called The Secret. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Okay. Someone gave it to me and said, watch this. I watched it, and I watched it about 3 times. And something within me just went, you know what? You've got something in you, and you've always gone, what if? Or, you've got this idea. Just do it. I mean, I didn't want to die not ever doing it. And something within me just went, you know what, stop the excuses. You know, I didn't have any money. I was a mother of young children at the time, worked full time. I had all the excuse in the world. I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to get it published. Every excuse in the book. And I just went, you know, stuff it. Stuff the excuses. Just do it. So I made that decision and I wrote the book over only a number of days. And I think I had it all stored up inside me. And there's a whole, there's a way of actually, many ways you can actually write a book. For me, I just grabbed a whole lot of sticky notes and wrote down every topic that I wanted to talk to teenagers about and had them spread out. And then day by day, over about 3 or 4 days, I wrote and wrote and wrote. And my husband at the time took the kids away for 4 days, and I literally wrote about 17,000 words in those 4 days.
Brilliant.
I just wrote, you know, all hours. Then I had to, I guess, find some way of getting that book out there. And however, call this the universe, however it's supposed to happen, I came across a book called Secrets Exposed of women entrepreneurs, and I thought, gee, I could be an entrepreneur one day. Read this book, and at the back of it, it had an ad and it basically said, do you want to have your own book published? And there became my connection with a guy called Dale Beaumont, who is an author.
Guest of the show, past sponsor of the show.
Past sponsor of the show. Well, this guy wasn't going to know what hit him, because I saw that. I Googled him. I've basically stalked him, found out everything I could about him, and as legend has it, I called his company, called up, asked to speak to him, and got through to him and said, I am just this person from Melbourne. He said, where are you from? What company? And I said, no, just Sharon Witt from Melbourne. If I can get up to where you are, can I take you out for lunch and pick your brains about this book I want to write? And he said, yes. So I contacted him when I got up to that state, took him out for lunch and picked his brain. And the first thing he said to me was, as I had this whole idea, I had the book in me, and I said, it's about this, and this. And he said...
You've written the book at this point in time?
I'd written the manuscript.
Yep. And he said?
And he said, one bit of advice, don't think book, think book series. And I said, he goes, don't put everything into this one book. I want you to think about it being a series. How could you break it up into this series, plan the series out? And that single piece of advice meant that I'd planned out a whole series. By the time my very first book came out, I had 4 covers inside the flap that said, more coming in this series. And it gave me leverage so that when I decided to self-publish, which was my decision, I could have taken it to mainstream publishers, but I actually wanted to do it myself. I wanted to learn. I'm the sort of person that is not afraid of learning and trying and failing. So I gave it a go, and Dale basically mentored me in the first book. And
how's that?
Absolutely.
That's a good mentor.
I didn't know who he was at the time. I just thought, okay, I'll ask this guy. He seems to know about book publishing, and I had no idea that he'd actually run a course about, it's called Get Published Secrets, I think, at the time. And he had a DVD series, and I watched that about 4 times each DVD, took notes, and I basically learnt how to do things and he guided me along the way. And because I'd had a series, when I approached the best, probably the best distributor in the country at the time.
Publisher?
It was a distributor, a book distributor, because you can't just...
What is the difference?
A book publisher is the person that the company that does the lot. They take your manuscript, get it edited, they design the covers, they liaise with you, but basically they pay for it all to be published and printed. And you just get very little. You get very little. You might get 10% of the book retail price.
I've never understood that.
No, it's a bit like a pie. So if you can imagine a pie, 50% of, if you imagine a book is $20 retail, the seller, so the book shop, gets 50% generally. So there goes half of it, $10 for the bookshop. So the people making the most money out of a book is generally the book shop. Roughly 10% goes to the author, about 15% goes to the publisher, and this is going to be really shoot my maths in the right now. The other percentage goes to the distributor. So if you are your own publisher, you get effectively about 25% or 20% and 10%. So you might get 30, 35%, and the distributor gets about 15%.
So you've gone down, you've self-published, you've found a distributor. Mm-hmm. They've got you good distribution.
They loved it. They said to me, because this is a series, we can see that this has legs. And if it had been a single book, they apparently reject about 96% of self-published books. But the guy at the time said to me, I think it's got legs. We can see that you've got a series in mind, which was great because I did go down the track of later doing another series called Girlwise, and I did the same model. I had planned a whole series out, the covers designed, and that gave me traction in the market.
I'm talking to educator, motivator of teenagers. We need more of those. Sharon Witt. Long-time listeners of this show will realise that this is the episode where I've said the least. And I think it'll continue that way, Shaz. I love it. So you get this book out into the marketplace, and in your own words, it changed everything.
Absolutely.
What happened?
Well, so the first book came out. I remember thinking, it's quite funny thinking back now, that if Kmart picked it up, if I saw my book in Kmart, I'd know I'd made it. Isn't that funny how you just think that? And they were the first people to pick up 1,000. They ordered 1,000 from my distributor.
That's the secret at work.
And I remember thinking,
put it out there?
I did. I said, if I got 1,000, if I got Kmart and I saw it there, I'd know I'd made it. And they were the first people. Then I remember writing this down. And I'm a big person that sets goals and puts dates on it. And I think, this is a whole nother show in itself, but writing your goals down and giving it a date puts it out there. And I remember putting the date down. I'm going to be on the Kerry Ann show by the 27th of November.
Overseas listeners, big talk show in Australia
big talk show at the time. And so I sent my book off with a little bit of a media blurb. And lo and behold, the very first television episode I did was on the Kerry Ann show.
Just hold on, with that little media blurb, what does that look like? Because that media blurb, in my experience, is what's going to get you or not get you on a show.
Yeah, well,
Can you remember what it said?
Look, I can't remember at the time. It was something to do with helping our teenagers, or our teenagers are at risk, or something like that.
Tell me about the moment you get a phone call from the producer of Kerry Ann saying...
I was beside myself. And I remember being in Sydney at a hotel overnight, and I woke up that morning, and the Today Show, which was another show on before that, I remember sitting on the bed looking at it going, I'm going on national television. I've never done that before. And I thought, I'm going to vomit on Gary Ann had beautiful shoes back then. And I thought, I'm going to vomit. What am I doing? And I remember getting there and I was extremely nervous, and she was wonderful. And I think the episode went well. But actually leaving the show in the taxi, I got a call from another national program that had seen me and said, can you come up on Monday and do another a segment for us. But what I learnt very quickly was, and I've done a lot of media now, is that the media need content. However, you have to derive it and you have to do a lot of hard work. But what they need is what's called a hook. So they need something that they can not so much sensationalise, although sometimes they do, but they need an angle from which they're going to be able to get some great dialogue. So it could be something...
Can I just pause you on that? And where you're going is very interesting, but as, I guess I'm part of that media, and I put out a show every week, and I'm always looking for great content, and I get a lot of emails from people wanting to come on as a guest, and it is that hook. And I'm often, and when I did the pre-interview with you, and when I do pre-interviews with other guests, it's like I say to them, what's the headline for this episode going to be? Are we going to talk about self-publishing? Are we going to talk about social influencers? Are we going to talk about, I don't know, and that there's the hook for me.
Yeah. So
being clear, someone like you trying to get media coverage, being clear on why should I interview you or why should Kerry Ann want you on the show is pretty much mission critical.
It is. And I've done a lot of media over the last 5 years, and I know that the media are hungry for content, but you've got to give it to them and you've got to give them the angle, and they're more likely to pick you up if you, for example...
Give us an example.
Okay, for example, if just say there's been... just say there's been... an issue with photographs being shared amongst teenagers with social media, and there's been, something quite sensational has happened. You can get the hook and say why our teenagers are in crisis with social media, why something needs to happen, or why social media is ruining our teens' lives. Something really strong like that. And as long as you can back it up and you can actually have some great dialogue about that, they need that. So, I often will just, if there's something that I see in the news and I think, boy, let me talk about this, I'll contact the media and say, here's my hook. It could be something to do with the school uniform, for example. I remember once there was some digital photoshopping that had happened to school photographs, and, students were getting their photos back and they'd been digitally altered. Their braces are taken out or their pimples are taken off. And I thought, wow, let me at that one. And so you can just, you send a few emails out to the producers,
So there's two parts to the hook. One is there's the time-sensitive hook, which is, look at the headline in the newspaper today. I've got an opinion on that. Quickly get something out to the media. Then there's the longer-term hook, which is, I'm Sharon Witt. I'm an educator of young people. I have strong opinions around it.
And so now
I'll be time sensitive.
No, and now I'll be contacted. Generally, I'll be contacted now by the media who'll say that they're people that they know are experts in an area, and they'll now contact me and say, "Listen, this has just come up in the news. Can we chat to you about it today?" Which is great when you've got runs on the board, but you've got to do the work. It's not easy, but it is really worth it. And all of that came from writing a book.
One book. So you've written the book, you've got a distributor, you're 1,000 copies in Kmart.
Yeah.
Kerry Ann calls you. Another show calls you, having seen you on Kerry Ann. This is okay so far. We've got a little bit of media coverage. The ego is going okay, right?
Although I've always kept it pretty humble. I still kick myself today that a teacher and, a mum from the suburbs can be doing this sort of thing now.
What else? So how else? What then happened? Because right now, from a small business point of view, you're not making a coin in terms of where we're at with the story. Right?
Yeah. Back then.
Back then. So what else developed?
So I started doing media. I started getting asked to do articles. I started to do quite a bit of radio. Articles generally, I've done a lot of them for free, but I get publicity through it. So and you're developing your brand. So I started to develop a brand, a name.
Mean?
Well, I started to become known as someone who was an expert in my field, and that built over time. Originally, it's interesting because originally I was trying to brand myself around my first book, which is the Teen Talk series. And interestingly enough, I remember trying to, about 2 years into it, thinking I should trademark the name. Now, the trademark had actually been picked up by someone else who was doing puberty talks in some, very small space, and you could Google the name and it would be probably, it was like going through a rabbit warren to actually find any connection to her, but yet there were pages and pages and pages of reference to me. However, I could have gone down the road of trying to get the trademark or whatever, but I didn't. And then someone said to me, it's actually more about your name, trademarking your name around not so much the Teen Talk series. And I'm so glad that I did, because I had no idea I'd going on to do so many other books and different series that actually would have limited me. Mm-hmm. But I would say early on, if you do have a brand and you start to develop this idea of who you are and your business, trademark it as early as you can, because you just don't know where it's going to go. And I had no idea that I would go on to write 12 books, and I'm still going, and start to develop a brand for myself.
Mm-hmm. And still teaching.
And still teaching.
2 days a week?
Just gone down to 2 days a week.
Okay.
I was trying to balance it all and teaching 4 days a week. But, I started getting asked to speak in schools and at conferences and events.
Okay, so this is it. And this is exactly what's happened to me over the years with my podcast and publishing a podcast, is that whilst I have a revenue stream through sponsorship of this show, I also, speaking has become, significant. For you, what are you selling? Because at this point, having all this media coverage is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me, if you were to quantify it, over the years, you've had hundreds and thousands of dollars of media coverage, column centimetres, seconds on TV, radio, et cetera.
And when you have hosts holding your book up, national television, and saying, this is great,
right.
it's awesome.
So But back then, all you've got to sell is a book. When did that change? And all of a sudden you're going, well, actually, no, you can book me for conferences or what else? What are you selling?
It's a funny story because I actually got contacted by the head of a youth organisation, and he had, and this is once again some of those things that happen and you go, wow. He walked into Kmart. He happened to see the brightness of my book appealed to him, and he grabbed it and he read it and he said, oh, we've got this big youth event coming up. I might see if we can book her for this 5-day speaking event. And I remember he contacted me and said, look, I'm not sure where in Australia you are, but we're running this big event. Would you be interested in being our keynote? Could you do, 5 keynotes over this? We'll pay for your flights, get you there.
5?
Do you do that? Now, no, I hadn't been doing those things.
Hell yeah, I do.
But I went, yes, I do. Absolutely. I'd love to do that. And I remember getting on the plane and I'd done my preparation but thinking, seriously, fake it till you make it.
Well, mind you, you're a teacher.
I'm a teacher. I can speak in front of teenagers, but that was like a real baptism of fire. 5 days of running sessions for teenagers and keynote speaking, and it was awesome. And I continue to work for them to this day. I still do their events. But yeah, after that, word got around and I started to get bookings and would you come and speak here and would you speak there? And that is where the book becomes a tool that you can then sell at events. And so, yes, I was getting online sales and I still do, and I still do through bookshops, through the distribution. However, when I'm out speaking an event, and now because I have 12 books and numerous resources and curriculum, and I now have a huge resource stand, and that's where a lot of my income comes from selling, because you're not actually, there's no middleman there.
No, it's all profit.
It's all profit margin.
Yeah.
So I've actually been doing very well through, when I speak, I get paid to speak, but also through the selling at the end of the night. If you've got 200 parents in a room and they all are just, they're hungry for resources for for themselves and for their children.
Hey, there's plenty to come, including the moment Sharon had a breakdown and came pretty close to giving it all up. But first, a business tip thanks to our exclusive partner, American Express.
Here's a money-making tip from American Express member and Four Pillars Gin founder, Stu Gregor.
I, for the life of me, don't understand why a business won't accept Amex, because what you're potentially doing is knocking back customers who want to spend money on your product or your brand or your service or whatever it is. And I frankly don't understand it. If someone wants to give me their Amex and buy 10 bottles of gin, I tell you what, I'll take their Amex, thanks very much. You're potentially also denying yourself a big chunk of corporate business as well. Because a lot of sales guys, I know me in my own business, I use Amex. And if I ring to make a booking at a restaurant or a bar or something, I say, do you accept Amex? And they say no, I go somewhere else. So they don't even know the business they're missing out on. It beggars belief. And I often find myself having these rather awkward conversations at the with a shopkeeper or a bar owner or a restaurateur saying, why wouldn't you take it? I'll pay you the extra. I'll pay 1.5, the credit card service fee or whatever you want. Take my money.
It's Business 101, really. Make it easy for people to give you money. Speaking of money, the American Express Business Explorer credit card comes with 50,000 bonus points every year, a low interest rate, and 2 points on every dollar you spend. Not to mention a couple of tickets to the very swish Amex Lounge at Sydney International Airport. Search Amex Business to find out more. New American Express card members only. Terms and conditions apply.
And now, back to teacher, author, keynote speaker, media darling, Sharon Witt. You've got 12 books out now, Shaz. Was there a bit of a bell curve happening where the impact of bringing out the next book started to diminish?
Well,
you've got, the first book made big waves, right?
Yeah.
All sorts of things happened.
It basically went on momentum. I just kept going. And every year I would bring out a new book. I just kept going. In fact, the second two, Girl Talk and Guy Talk, were both puberty books for kids 10 upwards. And I was going to do the girls one and then the boys one. And then I thought, why? As soon as I put that pink one out, for girls, parents are going to go, is there a boys one coming out? And I thought, you know what, let's just do them at the same time. That was huge. That was a massive thing to bite off. My poor graphic designer was, nearly passing out. I mean, he's actually my next door neighbour, so it's quite interesting. But we put out 2 at once. But the great thing about this was there was a book buyer at the time, and you can do pre-sales, and if you've got some runs on the board and another book comes out, I actually sent through the pre-sales information, and there was a book buyer that purchased 1,000 of each before I had even put pen to paper. I had pre-sales of 1,000 of each that basically covered my printing.
Brilliant.
For those those second and third books. So, yeah, it's been amazing how it happens, and you know what? I think there's a great saying. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
And that is what I live by. I get nervous, and yes, sometimes you make mistakes, but you know what? Life's short, and if you have got an idea, a seedling within inside you that says, you know what, I've got a book in me, if you've got an area of expertise or something that you can give to other people of value, do it.
I totally agree. And we've covered this before. Andrew Griffiths, a prolific small business author, has been on this show. We've gone in depth into publishing. I'll put a link in the show notes to that interview. But I do have a wish for every single person that listens to this show, all of who are either marketers and or small business owners, that they have a book.
They do.
I really, and I know that's unrealistic. Maybe one day I could make that my platform. Run for politics.
Absolutely.
Books for all business owners.
Yeah.
Free printing. But they are so powerful. So we have covered a lot, but I am interested. What is your advice before we move on? Because I want to talk to you about use of promotion for your personal brand. But what is your advice? You said you used a sticky note concept to get your first book written. Mm-hmm. There's lots of ways of doing it. You could talk into a recorder and have it transcribed.
Yeah.
But what do you say?
I could get a book finished in a day if that was the case.
Well, you absolutely could. And that is an absolutely valid
it's
way.
Funny,
then send it off to an editor.
Absolutely. It's funny. I'm a bit of a stickler for routine. I always go and buy a fresh new notebook.
You're such a teacher.
I'm such a teacher.
New pen?
Yeah, and I get a new pen.
Oh, you're funny.
I get my pens.
Tell me about the pen before.
They've got it.
Is it a Stedler?
No, you're going to laugh at this. It's got to be a Bic ballpoint pen.
Kilometrico?
No, it's Bic.
Yeah, Bic. Okay.
No, it's not a Kilometrico. It's your basic Bic from Safeway.
Colour?
No, it's blue.
It's blue?
It's blue.
You don't actually write the book.
Get this. I write by hand. So this is me. So I have loved always. I'm always carrying. I've got one in there. I've always in my bag. Sorry, I just realised that we went on television. And I've got a notebook and I write. And sometimes I'll sit with a packet of sticky notes and I'll write out all the different topics and then I'll stick them throughout the book. So it looks like they're little tabs. And then I can be on a train, I can be on holidays with my feet in a river somewhere and I can just go, right, I think I want to write about social media and teenagers, and I will just write. And there might be 6 pages that are there and I can just write. And now this is the joy of being a teacher. I've got lots of ex-students that I can draw on who need cash.
Sure.
And so I just then give my notebook to one of my ex-students who lives not far away and she types it up into a Word document for me and then emails it back to me because I hate typing.
I was saying, what's the benefit of writing? Because the beautiful thing about typing and word processing is word processing. Is word processing still a thing?
Word. But I enjoy writing, just writing by hand.
Move stuff around and delete chunks and.
Yep. So when it's typed up, sometimes I sit and type it up, and when I'm typing it up, I will then change things as I go. But the last book that I've done, I just gave it to my ex-student and said, "Can you type it? I really can't be bothered typing." So she does it, and now I'm at the process of going through and reading it, and then I'll change it as I go. Yeah.
Just out of interest, do you write on both sides of the page?
Yes, I do.
Oh, see, I could never do that.
I do.
Me out.
Yeah, I do. And I really enjoy the process of writing the book. So it's a shame you can't just get that photocopied and that's it. That's your book.
Yeah. Well, you could.
But I love the whole process of getting the book out, and I'm now helping other people do it. And I love it when people contact me and say, well, can you help me? And I love it. I love the process of it. And
you are clearly a process-driven person, very structured.
And the process has to be there. Once I learnt the process, it was in place, and now you duplicate it.
What can you put a dollar figure around getting a book onto a shelf?
Look, it's a bit like how long's a piece of string, but for my very first book, it was about $17,000 to get it done.
That seems like a lot.
It was. You can get it done. I think I printed 1,000. Dale Beaumont suggested I do 100 and see how it goes, and I went, I know you're the expert, but I'm going to back myself. And I knew that my mum would buy one. And so I thought, if it doesn't sell, I've got 999 Christmas presents for my students for a few years, and I'll be the best teacher ever because I'll go, a book. But I backed myself.
What have you got? 17 grand's a lot?
Yeah, nowadays I'm now printing offshore, and, look, roughly my books are costing me $2 or $3, $2 per copy. And if you're selling them for $15, that's pretty good. But really the setup costs are at the start. So having an editor, having someone to design it, and then sending it off to the printers. You've also got print on demand nowadays.
Yes.
So you can actually, I've got a great printer in Adelaide, and I can say I just need 400 copies, and they'll do it, and they can turn it over within a couple of weeks. The thing with overseas is it can be 2 or 3 month process by the time they get out here. So there are lots of ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be done expensively. You can do ebooks now. A lot of people are publishing the books in a PDF, selling it that way. There are so many ways that you can become an author and not having to spend a lot of money. But as a ballpark these days, I allow about $10,000 to do a book for me now, which is much more reasonable. Yeah. But I can also do it, as an ebook if I want to. But, if you've got about $10,000 to invest in it, the thing is it doesn't take too long once you get it out there to have a return on your investment. And the thing is, it is an investment. Writing a book is actually an investment in your brand, and it's an asset.
People don't, well, maybe they do, because I do rap it on about it on this show over the years, but it's a glorified business card. You can actually sell it, so you can make money there. I can't imagine the amount of business that maybe you've got, I've got, other authors have got, just simply by sending a free book to a speakers bureau or to the media or whatever it is. It's very powerful, and
Yep. And you've got to remember, author is from the word authority. So as soon as you, for some reason, I remember Dale Beaumont saying this to me, as soon as you become an author, you instantly get some credibility as you're some sort of authority in that field.
Well, I think, again, I always say the marketing world's changed. Part of that is the fact that, all these new platforms, whether it be video or podcasting or self-publishing or social media to an extent, they rightly or wrongly make you an authority.
They do.
It's all very well to say you've written a book. Is the book any good? But it does. It does create a perception amongst people that, they must know what they're talking about. Interesting.
Yeah, but I will say this: you've got to make sure that your book is quality, because I've seen some pretty horrid books out there that are self-published and they're put out and they're done on the cheap and they look cheap. So you do have to make sure that it is bookshop quality. You really want it to be something you're really proud of.
Yeah.
So don't rush the process, but make sure also that you do your due diligence to make sure that the end result is a good looking book as well.
You are down to 2 days a week teaching.
Absolutely.
You're going to always I imagine that you'd want to keep a finger in that pie.
I think so. Yeah, I think I will always, I actually love spending my days immersed in teen world. I do enjoy it. But because my speaking and presenting and media has become so big and running the business now is huge, that 2 days is just nice. But even if I wasn't teaching, I would still be going in doing a few casual days, and I will always continue to work with young people. That's how you stay relevant too in this industry.
Does the Sharon Witt Incorporated business have staff?
Staff? It does now. I'm just starting to have people coming on board basically by necessity.
No doubt.
I started running conferences for parents and educators 2 years ago, helping them raise resilient young people. And it just came from one idea and it became huge. And we're now running this conference in 3 different states this year. And so I have to have people on board to help. So I make sure that the people that I employ are the best at what they do. And I think this is probably going a bit off track, but it's important that you employ people that are good at what they do. Because when you're running a business, I'm not great at accounts. I'm not yes, I'm an organised person, but the little details when you're running a big conference and speaking and having to keep up all the emails with the people you're going to present for, I don't enjoy that. I'd rather just go and do the presenting. So I've got some good people now around me that manage that.
It's a challenge. In fact, my last guest, Tom McLean from Sophie Spritz, which is an alcoholic beverage, his main strategy around why he's been successful is finding people, experts in their field, really good people in branding,
yes,
or really good people in distribution. He even went on Shark Tank and got some equity and some great advice from the Sharks. But he's very big on that.
Yeah.
And I think you got to find that balance. I mean, you know, we talk a lot on this show about content marketing. And if, as a small business owner, all you ever did was focus on creating great content and left the editing and the spell checking and all that other stuff to someone else, is a good outcome. Sometimes it can be expensive and the cash flow is not there, but it's where you want to get to, right?
It is, and I'm just getting to that now. I'll be completely honest. After 10 years, I think last year I was exhausted at times because I'm teaching nearly full time. I'm managing book orders. I'm managing invoices. I'm managing media. I'm trying to keep up with writing articles for magazines and newspapers, and trying to keep up with it all, and bookings, and follow up and invoicing everybody. And I was exhausted back to back, working 3 jobs, and it wasn't until I kind of had a bit of a meltdown towards the end of last year and just went, there's not enough hours in the day.
Was it
I was
a real meltdown?
Exhausted. Yeah, I had about 3 days where I just couldn't move. I just thought, I've done too much, and my head just went, it's too much. I just thought, I have to give all this away. It's too much. And I've heard of many people who run companies and big businesses, when you try and do it all yourself, you have to let go of the reins sometimes. And for me, it's been very difficult to do that, because I think, well, if I don't do it, it's not going to happen properly. And, I have to have my finger on all the pulses. And it wasn't until I had someone come on board and say, I'm going to manage your conferences. I want it to get to the point where you just turn up for the day, you book the talent and you come and do your session, but we run all the rest of it. And so I've got a wonderful person who is an event coordinator. She does my events now.
She local?
She's local to me. In fact, I went to high school with her.
Oh, I love it.
And we got in contact with each other, and she said, tell me about it. And I said, I need someone to run these events. So she books everything. She manages every detail, and she's very organised. And she made, she took my mess of my folders of all the little miniature detail, and she put it all in folders and reset it all and did what she does best. And then I had another girl come on board who helped out at one of my conferences and said, you need some help. You can't manage all this. I would like to train myself up. So can I work for you for a few months for free?
Oh.
Because she said, I want to learn. And then she said, and then if you want to, then she's now going to invoice me for her time. So I've got people who are coming on board now who are good at what they do. And they're going to release me this year too, because I am the one who comes up with ideas and wants to write and generate some amazing ideas and content.
Space to be in.
Yeah, but it's taken 10 years to learn that I can't do it all.
Yeah.
I can't. And if I'm going to have success for the next 10, 20 years, I need to be able to delegate and delegate well.
Was part of you not handing all those other responsibilities across, was it being a control freak?
Yep.
Did you not want to spend the money? Did you...
Control freak.
Control freak.
Yep, thinking I need to manage it all myself. And also
do you
thinking...
look back and go, you're a bit of a numbskull, Shaz, for thinking like that?
Dropkick, yeah. I actually think I could have done I could have really prevented myself from suffering last year towards the end, where it was almost burnout. I got myself out of it pretty quickly after about 4 days, but it happens about once a year. I just have all these things. I had this major conference that I'd organised. I had 900 people attend it. It was a huge, successful day, and I didn't leave myself a buffer the following week. I had, my 4 days of teaching. I was booked to go and speak at a country town for 2 days, and I was still speaking at events at night, and I didn't give myself a buffer to rest. Now I've got this person who's now in charge of my calendar, and she has already put in my speaking for next year and the conferences, for this year, but she's also put in buffers now where I have to chill.
That buffer line would look
Now,
nice,
you know very well that I've just come back from a week away, by myself. So once a year.
Looking radiant, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I do have a tiny bit of a tan.
Well, I'm not sure about the tan.
Yeah.
Radiant anyway.
But thank you. I take myself away for a week every year at the start of the year and give myself a complete break from everything. And I just use it to chill out and not think about business or anything, but it's when some of my best ideas germinate.
So you've just got back yesterday. Anything pop in the last week?
Just book ideas and resource ideas and
Have you thought
I
about
write articles when I'm away if I feel like it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a bit of I want to talk to you about article content provision. You said you provided a few magazines.
Yeah, a lot of magazines for young people, for
is
teen
that paid,
girls.
or is that again profile?
Most
stuff?
of them are profile
Okay.
things. Most of it I don't get paid for. So I quite enjoy the process of just writing articles, and they don't take me too long. If I'm in the headspace, I love writing in coffee shops. So I just go to coffee shops. It has to be noisy for me. For some reason it works, and I can bang out a 1,000-word article in a short amount of time.
How do you buy stuff at the coffee shop?
Yeah,
I know a
always.
few people who go and sit in coffee shops for 3 or 4 hours and have one coffee. And
No.
I can't do that.
No, I look at it as...
How often do you have to buy something, do you reckon? Every sort of 40 minutes? Yeah. Just give us another muffin.
Yeah. In fact, I go to regular coffee shops now where they'll just
don't
come
you?
up and they'll just say, "Are you ready for your next coffee?"
Love it.
And they just look after me. I've written all of my books in local coffee shops.
Have you really?
All of them. And in fact, I always do a shout out to them as well. But I'll be honest, I'll go in and say, "Listen, I need to write for the next 6 hours. Are you happy for me to have a table? I'll buy lunch, I'll buy breakfast, it's to drop the kids off at school if it was my day off, and have breakfast there, write, have coffee. I might spend $30 or whatever.
Yep.
But for me, it's like renting an office.
Yeah, sure.
So I always support the small businesses.
Have you thought about extending your reach beyond self-publishing, blogging, writing, podcasting or video?
I would love
to.
to. Yeah, I'd
Because you
actually
don't
love.
mind talking.
I'm on fire today because I've had a week off of no talking. So, look, I've probably got about another 30,000 words still to go in my day.
A mate of mine is the professor of marketing at one of the universities, and it's actually proven, it's been researched that women have 7,000 words to speak a day and men have 4,000.
How do they get their 4,000 in, though?
The men?
Yeah.
We don't really.
You
It's a
really
lot
don't.
of mumbling and, just grunting. That's considered a word.
Well, I'm
Like,
really
if I
glad
go
that
to you, that's like a word.
I'm really grateful you've given me a 4-hour podcast today. That's great.
Yeah, right.
What was your question
Why
again?
have you not looked at other mediums?
I haven't had time.
Right.
Because,
So maybe this year
someone
now
needs
that
to
you've
teach the
freed yourself
students.
Yes.
I would love to this year explore having a wider reach. So I would love the idea of podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how to do it. I know that I have
me
got. I know that I've got access to studios. I do a lot of radio interviews,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a relationship with one particular radio station where the afternoon drive host, if I see something, I'll ring him and say, "Hey, I'm going to pop in. Let's do a couple of segments and have them in the can so that you can then use them in the next week or two." Loves it because I'm driving content for him.
Would you have a preference towards audio or video?
Oh, I think audio.
How come?
Because I couldn't be bothered doing my hair. I'd like to do audio, but the other thing I would love to do, and I've considered this, is doing a little TV show. So I guess it's a YouTube show.
Uh-huh.
I was asked to go and do some a person that I know who does a lot of parenting. He's developed some courses, and he asked me last year to go and be part of the course, and he interviewed me as part of his course. And a guy had a television studio set up in his home. So he was a retired gentleman and is now just doing a few corporate things in his home, like a large home. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, I wouldn't mind interviewing people and doing my own TV show. And he said, absolutely, I'll do that for you. So I've got lots of ideas.
Lots of ideas, yeah.
But until now, because I've been teaching 4 days a week, I'm like, where do I do that? So now...
And would it be for kids or parents?
Parents.
Yeah. Because your
Parents,
books are
adults.
for kids.
They're for kids. I've got one for parents.
Mm-hmm.
The rest are all for the kids. But often the parents are reading my books with their kids.
Yes.
They're working through them. They're all non-fiction books. So,
Well, you've tapped into something, and you're not the only one, but you're doing it very well, a market that is not going to disappear. that is
I know,
hungry.
good thinking, hey?
Great thinking, probably by default. I don't know.
It was by default, but people are always going to have children.
Always going to have children. I think there's not enough information and not enough good information out there. I think that the problems are only going to get worse as a parent, and my listeners have heard me rant on about social media, and even today I heard something which was really interesting coming in the car. I was listening to an interview with someone, and they talked about back in our day it was all about being outside.
Absolutely.
Today, it's all about being inside, which just makes me feel sick even thinking about
Yeah.
it. Computers and video games and phones. And
our kids are so connected, it's scary.
Yeah, it's scary.
They don't get let up. They don't have any break.
Anyway, that's your podcast.
That's my podcast.
And
so can I ask you a question? If I
Sure.
wanted to start podcasting, where do you start?
Do you mean from a technical point of view? Well, okay, don't worry about technology because that's easy, right?
Yeah.
That's relatively
You find
easy.
someone that's their expertise.
Where you start, and I talk about this in my book, The Boomerang Effect, which is get clear on your editorial mission. And the simple 3 questions: what have you got to offer, to who, and what outcome can they expect? So the editorial mission for this show is marketing tips and tricks. That's what I have to offer. For who? Small service-based businesses. They're my love, but it applies to really any business. What outcome can they expect? More inquiry. So everything I create on this show, everything in my book, everything I blog about, everything I speak from stage plays into that editorial mission. It'd be very easy for you to identify your editorial mission and then go and create and then go and write. Once you're clear on it, go and write the first 5 or 10 headlines or topics for your show and then agree on a format. It could be you on your soapbox just ranting. It could be a co-host. It could be interviews. It could be you answering parents' questions. There's lots of different formats. So once you agree on that,
And you can vary it up a bit too, I guess.
I like.
Or is it best to stick to the same formula?
There isn't. I'm going to be subjective here. I like to stick to relatively the same formula because, if you turn on the nightly news on TV, they're going to lead with the big stories. They're going to break. They're going to come back with the smaller stories. They're going to have a weather update. They're going to go to sport. They're going to finish with the weather and a fun story.
Yeah,
that's the structure of the news. And if that changes, then it doesn't. But if it did, you'd like, oh, what happened? I'm used to the other structure. So I think as humans, we like a bit of structure and know what to expect. But that said, the format of this show is always an interview. There's a segment, and sometimes I answer a listener question. Sometimes I share an opinion, but vary it around a little bit. But 80% of the show is set in concrete.
And then how do you get people to listen?
Well, I don't know because I've got no one listening. But
hello to those 3 people.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you get it out there?
Okay, so they're all good questions. My first response is just create ace content. Just create really good content because the best marketing is a great product. Okay, that's just how it works. So create great content. Be consistent. I see too many people head off on, writing 3 blog posts and then doing nothing, or doing 4 episodes of a podcast and then doing nothing. Commit to it. 6 months, once a week. Don't look at the scoreboard. Head down. Just do it. Right?
Yeah.
But then strike partnerships. I mean, the partnership, what happened with this show is when we struck a nerve early, I had a co-host for the first 80 episodes, struck a nerve early. We found that intersection between education and entertainment, and I can't educate by myself and I can't entertain by myself, but I can combine the two.
Yeah.
So that worked really well and we hit a nerve with that. But I think then partnerships, like getting this show on Virgin Airlines internationally and domestically, all of a sudden opened up a bigger audience.
Yeah.
I have the Small Business Association of Australia and the Small Business Mentoring Institute share my content each week.
Oh, fantastic.
So finding those partnerships where you can get a contact somewhere but they can leverage it out to their database is very powerful. Being on iTunes, being on Stitcher, being on Spotify, these are all ways. But and then from a technology point of view, it's pretty easy. We have the luxury, you and I are sitting here in a very nice radio studio.
Yeah.
You don't need that. I mean, I've done shows out of the back of my car.
Yeah.
I've done shows under a doona in a hotel room just to get the right acoustic.
I actually had someone come and interview me recently for a podcast that she does, and we sat on my lounge room floor on the carpet.
Sure.
She had it all set up on the floor, and we just sat there and we had a cup of tea in hand. And we did a fantastic show.
And you know, I think it is becoming more competitive these days. I would say years ago, hey, listen, your iPhone's got an audio recorder on it. Open it up and start talking. Yes, do that, but very quickly start to pay attention to production values because there are so many people self-publishing. There are so many people podcasting. There are so many YouTube channels. So as quick as you can, start to refine the quality of your audio and where you're doing it, and because that, again, will be a point of difference. There's a lot of podcasters doing it in echoey rooms with poor equipment, with traffic in the background. Hey, it's better than not doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I reckon you'd be great at it, Shaz, and I would be fully supportive of it.
Lovely.
You can pick my brain.
I think I will give it a go.
Yeah. Well, you're not short of a word. Were we finished?
Let's be honest.
I know we haven't. I know I said it was going to be a 4-hour chat, but that was just to get you in.
Right. Did you want to talk about social media?
Oh, see, I knew
No time?
you're a machine.
Well, I'm
you're
just
good
saying.
like that. What have you got to say? Oh, well, let's finish on social media because I know
that's been important for me.
It's been really important. And why?
Well, for me, it's been really important to have a social media presence because a lot of my market, the parents, are on social media. You've got a lot of mums on social media. So whenever
What an irony, given you're telling the kids to get off it.
Exactly. But whenever I'm doing an interview, whether I'm writing an article, because I contribute a lot to news media, they'll contact me for comments and my expertise, and so I'll share that. So I'm all about giving content and giving assistance rather than just, here's my book, buy my book. I don't do that. I will just share content and share ideas. And if I see something, for example, kids are going back to school. What's your advice for helping? What are 5 tips to help your child prepare for starting school next week? Or whenever it is. So I'll give some tips and advice. Here's a link to an article I've just contributed to so they can read that.
Is this
generates
a Facebook
content.
post that you're...
Yeah, Facebook post. And I've also got an Instagram author page now that
How do
just
you...
started.
what's the difference between a post... I mean, obviously, Instagram's a lot more visual, but Facebook also best is...
I always make sure my Facebook has a visual as well.
How does a Facebook post and Instagram post differ from you?
They're quite similar.
Yeah.
I haven't got my head all around Instagram yet. I've mainly used that for personal use, but I've got a girl, once again, she's an expert. She lives in another state and she manages my social media. She's just doing that for fun at the moment.
Nice.
And which is awesome, and she's very, very good at it.
Can she do mine?
And she's actually doing it at the moment for a few well-known people. So she doesn't, advertise it, but she's managing some pretty great content at the moment, and she's very good at it. She's only a young person, about 27 years old, and she's
right in the
gun
wheelhouse
at it.
of
gun at it.
Yeah.
And she does. I'm not great with that, but she does it well. I'm pretty good with managing my Facebook, and if I am going to do a bit of a book deal, or I might say, have you got a young person who's struggling with anxiety, child is struggling with anxiety, you might find it helpful to have a look at this book, and I'll give them a bit of content, but then I'll put a link to the particular book I have that is about social anxiety. And or friendships. Friendships is always a huge one.
Your social media strategy is very much from the Gary Vaynerchuk jab, 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 right hook school of thinking.
There you go.
So Gary is probably a leading commentator in the world on social media.
I've just fumbled along as I've gone.
It's a lot of this stuff is common sense.
Yeah.
His book, his philosophy in the book of the same name, jab, 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 right hook. A jab is a give. So advice,
Yes.
help, no sell.
Yeah.
And then he says for every 3 jabs, you can then come in with a right hook, which is book me, buy from me.
Okay.
And I would argue that you probably need more jabs than 3 before you come through the right hook.
I don't sell very often. I don't, every now and then I'll pop up one of my books and say, but I'll put it more along the lines of just received a great order for this book. If you're thinking of, if you're wanting to, for example, my book, Surviving High School, I'll say a lot of parents are finding this really helpful at the moment. If you want to grab your copy,
Beautiful.
I'll throw in free postage at the moment or something for the next 24 hours. Feel free
Just
to
finish
order.
on social media, Shaz. You've got this lady interstate managing it. How do you maintain your voice?
It's interesting because she's only managing my Instagram, and so far she actually knows me quite well. So she's using. It's a bit of trial and error, but I've watched the last few posts, and she has picked up my voice.
Right.
It's really obvious that it sounds like me.
That's a skill.
But she also knows me very well. So I've known her for a few years. She knows me. So it is very important that if you do hand the reins over to anyone, that they know your voice and that they know you.
I agree.
Yeah, and to keep up with that, and it's trial and error. You know, if she posts something and I think, oh, that's not really me, I'll just let her know. And I'll just say, yeah, not sure about that one.
Yeah.
Perhaps leave that.
Love it. You're doing a lot of things right, Shaz. Love your work.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
SharonWitt.com.au
Yeah.
is where you can find all the help you need for your troublesome teens, or just copy her business model, really.
Yeah, that's right. But that was another thing, the trial and error of my website. It took
It's a
3
great
goes
website.
before.
I love your website.
But it took 3 goes before
Cool.
I got something that actually reflected me.
We're doing my website at the moment with the help of a fellow David Jennings from Melbourne SEO Services, and we are absolutely kind of ripping things apart and going, well, that didn't work. If you had that, get rid of it, try this,
That's the thing. You've got to be not afraid to try something. What if it fails? That's fine. You just pivot and change and do something different.
Love your work.
But just keep trying.
Sharon, no more talking.
Oh, really?
I know. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
See ya. Oh, Shaz, she does love a chat, but what a great story. You inspired? Are you inspired to become an industry opinion leader? I hope you are. Coming up, I'm going to share my top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Sharon, thanks to American Express. And hang around after that, because Dave Jennings and myself will demystify the power of backlinks in your marketing. Plus, I've got some prizes to give away. Righto, attention grabber number 1. Actually, there are more questions than attention grabbers this week, but stick with me. Number 1, what do you need to do to be regarded as an expert in your industry? Figure it out and start. Self-publish, podcast, become a number 1 something, whatever it is. Figure out what you need to do. Attention grabber or question number 2, what's your hook? Why are people going to be interested in what you have to say? Is a really good question to ask. And don't get all down on the lip going, I got nothing to say, I've got no hook. Create one. I didn't have a hook, but 9 years ago I started a podcast, and now it's my hook. It's what makes people pay attention so that I get speaking engagements and other things. Okay? That's the boomerang effect in action. That's what my book's about. It's what it's called. And number 3, what's holding you back? What's stopping you from feeling the fear and doing it anyway? I love this side of running a business. We've all got things holding us back. We've all got limiting beliefs. We've all got that little person on our shoulder going, Timbo, you're hopeless. Well, your person on your shoulder wouldn't be saying that, but you know what I mean. So feel the fear and do it anyway. That's actually the name of a very good book, which I would encourage you to read. They're the 3 questions that kind of got raised in my mind from my chat with Sharon Witt. I'd love to know what grabbed your attention. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/406. Let me know.
Ignite your site.
Oh, yes, indeedly doodly. With so many underperforming business websites out there, this segment is laser focused on ensuring yours is not one of them. To get your website found and your phone ringing, and we love a phone that's ringing, us business owners, we're joined by Dave Jennings of MelbourneSEOservices.com. DJ, what is on that beautiful mind of yours?
I can't believe how many business owners focus in. You caught me a little off guard. Thank you for my beautiful mind.
Yes.
Focusing on building backlinks. They think it's the be-all and end-all when it comes to search engine optimization. Now, building a backlink, that's just getting references to your website, those little blue underlined links.
On other people's website.
Correct, pointing back to your website. And that's all they seem to focus on. Yes, they're important. Yes, links still matter. But you need to make sure that you're building really good quality ones. I'm talking about asking suppliers or customers to post on their website back to yours, or industry blogs, or submitting to key directories. You want to focus on high quality stuff.
So let's say I'm a house cleaner.
Yes.
I go to the local real estate agent. I say, can you put a link on your website which says house cleaning services Elwood, being a suburb in Melbourne, and link it back to my site? That would be a good backlink, right?
That's a quality backlink.
That's a quality
and
backlink.
It's genuine, it's helpful. That's the real key.
And Google see all these backlinks of all these websites around the world pointing back to yours, and they go, oh, these guys seem pretty popular.
Exactly right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so great tip. What do listeners need to do to activate such great learnings on their website?
Well, it all starts with having great quality content, because that's makes it so much easier to share to get these backlinks. So I'd love to give the listener a free copy of my book, Authority Content. I know this is audio, so you can't.
Yes, I can see it and hear it.
They can head to authoritycontent.com/Timbo to claim their free copy.
Brilliant, mate. Great advice. And that is another way to
Ignite your site.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Oh, yes, come on down, indeedly doodly. I love this part of the show. I hope you do. It's young. It's only in its second week? Third week? I can't remember. But here's the gist. You email me an idea that you've learnt from this show and that you've implemented in your business. You tell me what impact it's had on your business, and I give you a prize. And the prizes have been donated by past guests. And they're so generous. Tell you what, I'm sitting on a pretty serious little treasure chest of prizes. And one very big one, worth over $2,000, that a future guest has already given me. More on that in the coming weeks. Pretty exciting. Tim@timreid, reid.com.au is where you send me your little achievements. So I've got two prizes to give away to two listeners. First listener, Jake Shorter from Foxy Home Staging. G'day, Jake. He says, hi, Timbo. I just wanted to send you a message to say thank you for all that you do, not only for small businesses, but for people like me who listen to your show both to learn and for motivation and inspiration to start a business one day. Oh, cubicle. He's stuck in a cubicle by the sounds of things. But that's brilliant. I agree. I mean, listening to shows like this are much about the inspiration and motivation as they are about the ideas that you can implement like that. Jake goes on to say, I know you don't like to make a big deal of the milestone episodes. Yeah, that's true, Jake. So episode 400 passed without any fanfare. That it did. But I want to congratulate you anyway. There aren't many podcasts that have been running constantly for 8 years and continually pumping out great content. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate that, buddy. Getting notes like this mean a lot to me, and that's all I need. I don't need to make big hoo-has about milestones. I might make a hoo-ha about episode 500, but even as I say that, just a number. Anyway, back to Jake. He says, the other reason for my email is to put something in writing so there's a record of it. I'm an aspiring cubicle escapee. Oh, I love that. And my aim is to email you again in a couple of years and have something interesting to say as a podcast interviewee. So archive this email for that day. All right, Jake, I am holding you accountable, my friend. There's no going back now. This is on tape. He goes on to say, my wife and I have recently started a business, Foxy Home Staging, helping property owners get more value from their assets when they sell. It's a good idea. And while we're building our profile, I am continuing to stay in my full-time gig, which is a job that I enjoy most of the time and has great pay and hours, but it's not something I'm passionate about. Yes, I know that feeling, Jake. I was there myself one lifetime ago. But there is a point in the near term when I make the switch and join my wife full-time in our business, and that is exciting. There are a huge number of things I've taken from the Small Business Big Marketing show that we have either started to implement or intend to over time. I'm glad that you've started, Jake. Intense, great, but keep implementing, buddy. One a week if you have to. Keep that momentum. He goes on to say, but the one thing has put us at a huge advantage over our local competitors already is something that goes back to the basics. And that is to be helpful and make it easy for your clients to buy from you. Hallelujah. Helpful marketing is everything. That is what my book, The Boomerang Effect, is about. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to. You will find it on my website. Jake goes on to say, we found it and still do. Amazing how difficult others in our industry make it for clients to work with them. Very inflexible, slow to respond, etc., etc., etc. And our starting point was as simple as this. Fix the things that are currently stopping clients from paying for a service like ours. It's genius. Gee, marketing's easy. Jake, it's brilliant, buddy. I think you are onto something. We have grand plans for our business, and as I said, in the back of my mind is an ambition to create a story worth telling on your show. Until that day comes, keep up the great episodes, and if you ever find yourself with time in Brisbane to kill, let me buy you a beer. Jake, I'm just diarising that. Just one moment. Jake, thank you for your note, mate. You have won a Bunster's hot sauce pack, 4 packs of the incredibly popular hot sauce. It's valued at $83. It is going to be sent to you in the mail, and you are going to enjoy every bit of that. Thank you to Renee Bunster, past guest, who is smashing it with Bunster's hot sauce range. Okay, next time, what am I saying? Get yourself together, Timbo. This is embarrassing the way that you talk. Okay. I'm back. This is from Paul Walton, another listener who I want to give a prize to. He says, hi, Tim. Hello, Paul. 4 Pillars Gin is definitely the best marketing idea I have implemented. The more I drink, the better my marketing looks. Yes, there's many lines there, but we won't go there in this politically correct day and age. You know what I mean? And I'm so PC. Your episode with Andre Eichmeyer from Vino Mofo. Wow, that's a long time ago, Paul. That's episode 94. It was a good interview, I must say. I really enjoyed talking to Andre. He's a disruptor. From back in the day was also the catalyst for my venture into the wine industry with my business, Secret Bottle. What a great name. I cornered Andre in a lift not long ago after a Key Person of Influence event. Oh, there you go. I like seeing people come together like that. And told him the story, talk about an elevator pitch. I hope you nailed it, Paul. I think there are so many nuggets in your show, Timbo, that it's hard to point to one of them. If anything, it is the consistent listening of the show that pushes me to always try something new. Brilliant. I just on that point, Paul, and anyone else listening, continue to listen to your favourite stuff. You might be chockers with ideas. The journal might be overflowing. You have no more ability, no more brain space to implement, but you can still use shows like this and others to remain motivated. I think it's a great thing. What you put in, you get out, right? So put good stuff in. That was from Paul Walton, Chief Wine Activist at Secret Bottle. Paul, I'm going to give you something to have with your wine, thanks to Matthew Parry, last week's guest from the Good Crisp Company. I'm going to give you 2 boxes of 8 canisters of the Good Crisp Company's chips, which he's taking on Pringle. That's valued at $60, and I hope you enjoy it with a little Pinot Grigio. Paul, if that's the name of it. I don't know wine very well. Hey, there you go, team. That is Monster Prize Draw for another week. This is going to happen week in, week out. All you need to do is email me, tim@timreid.com.au. Tell me an idea that you've learnt on the show and implemented, what impact it's had on your business, and you, my friend, will be a winner. Alrighty. Hey, you and I cover some serious marketing ground in this show. I hope you agree. Have you listened to the chat I had with sisters Lucy and Joe from homewares brand Hunting for George? Tell you what, that is a great story about how a side hustle. I mean, Lucy was a nurse and Joe was a graphic designer. They turned that little side hustle into a multi-million-dollar business, and it is rocking. Hey, what about the episode with 2 sisters? Not the same 2 sisters, but 2 sisters, Felicity and Lucy, who have the #1 female sports podcast in Australia. That was an inspiring interview. Love a good side hustle. Hey, you'll find both those episodes plus hundreds more over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or you can subscribe free on your favourite podcast app, which means that you will never miss another episode. Love to hear from you. Hit the contact button over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where you can email me. Just say hi. If you don't want to do anything else, you could just say hi. You can connect with me on social media, bit of Twitter, bit of Facebook, bit of LinkedIn love. And you can also buy a signed copy of my book, The Boomerang Effect, which I would love you to do because I think it would actually propel your beautiful business forward. Hey, big thanks to American Express Business Explorer credit card. They have exclusively, if you haven't noticed, sponsored this episode. If you love the idea of your business expenses rewarding you, and I think you probably should love that idea, then go and Google Amex Business and check it out. Hey, speaking of love, if you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, then let another business owner know about it by grabbing their phone, opening up the podcast app, searching Small Business Big Marketing, hitting subscribe, download the first, say, 5 episodes for them, hand it back, say, you're welcome, and move on to the next one. I'd love you for that. Until next week, I am Timbo Reid. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.